Today, an approval in colorectal cancer, other regulatory advancements in RCC, CLL, and multiple myeloma, and news from the inaugural International Cancer Immunotherapy Conference. Hello and welcome to OncLive News Network. I'm Laura Jones. The FDA approved the oral nucleoside TAS-102 for the treatment of patients with metastatic colorectal cancer whose disease has progressed following standard therapies. The approval comes 2 months ahead of the FDA's scheduled action date. The pivotal Phase 3 RECOURSE study randomized 800 patients with refractory mCRC in a 2-to-1 ratio to receive best supportive care plus TAS-102 or placebo. Patients had received prior fluoropyrimidine, irinotecan, oxaliplatin, and bevacizumab, and 52% had received an EGFR inhibitor. The median overall survival was 7.1 months with the agent compared with 5.3 months with placebo. The 1-year OS rate with TAS-102 was 27% compared with 18% with placebo. In this next clip, Dr. Marwan Faqih of the City of Hope talks about the importance of this study.
And the importance of this study is that it shows that this agent not only is superior, statistically superior to placebo, and improves the overall survival of patients, but it actually is also tolerable. It does not have skin rash, it does not have hand and foot syndrome, it has minimal diarrhea, and the main side effect is bone marrow suppression. So there is few cases, a small percentage of febrile neutropenia, and one has to monitor the bone marrow function during treatment with TAS-102. But an improvement of 32%, a hazard ratio of 0.68 in overall survival, is pretty good for a patient population that has failed everything.
The FDA granted Nivolumab a breakthrough therapy designation for the treatment of patients with advanced renal cell carcinoma. The designation is based on the Phase 3 open-label CheckMate 025 trial, which compared Nivolumab and everolimus in 821 patients with advanced RCC. Overall survival was the primary endpoint. Secondary outcome measures included progression-free survival and objective response rate. The trial was stopped early in July after an independent panel determined that Nivolumab improved overall survival versus everolimus. The CheckMate 025 data are being presented at the 2015 European Cancer Congress in Vienna. Bristol Myers Squibb plans to submit the data for regulatory approval later this year. The FDA granted a priority review designation to the anti-CD20 monoclonal antibody ofatumumab as a maintenance therapy for patients with relapsed chronic lymphocytic leukemia following a response to second or third-line therapy. The application is based on a near doubling in progression-free survival seen with the treatment compared with observation in the Phase 3 open-label PROLONG trial. In the study, the agent demonstrated a median PFS of 28.6 versus 15.2 months with observation, representing a 52% reduction in the risk of progression. Additionally, the time to next therapy was 10.6 months longer within the treatment arm compared with observation. Data from the PROLONG trial were also submitted to the European Medicines Agency in early July 2015. Also on the FDA front, carfilzomib was granted a priority review designation in combination with dexamethasone for patients with relapsed multiple myeloma following prior treatment with at least one therapy. This decision was based on findings from the Phase 3 ENDEAVOR trial. In the study, carfilzomib and dexamethasone reduced the risk of progression by 47% compared with bortezomib and dexamethasone. The median PFS with carfilzomib was 18.7 versus 9.4 months with bortezomib. The overall response rate was 77% with carfilzomib versus 29% with bortezomib. Now on to some promising data in cervical cancer. Phase 2 study data show that the vaccine ADX-S11001 demonstrated a 12-month overall survival rate of 38.5% in 26 patients with persistent or recurrent metastatic cervical cancer. The study population was patients who had progressed on at least one prior line of systemic therapy. In an interview, lead investigator Tom Herzog told OncLive that this population historically has an estimated survival of 4 to 7 months and limited treatment options. The median overall survival with the vaccine was 7.7 months, which is expected to increase as the data mature. The International Cancer Immunotherapy Conference was held this week in New York. The inaugural conference spotlighted several preclinical and early clinical trials for immunotherapy approaches. In one study, patients with higher levels of certain proteins circulating in their blood, CD8, PD-1, and BIM, experienced a better response to pembrolizumab in 18 patients with melanoma. Another early phase study demonstrated that a new Swedish CD19-targeted CAR T-cell therapy was effective in patients with leukemia and lymphoma when used along with cyclophosphamide plus fludarabine. 6 of the 11 patients treated experienced a complete response. This study demonstrates the first efficacy of a CAR T-cell therapy outside of the United States. And in melanoma, treatment with an immune system boosting agent called CpG-B following surgical resection greatly decreased the risk of progression compared with placebo in patients with stage 1 or 2 disease. After a median follow-up of 76.5 months, 41% of patients assigned to the placebo had experienced a recurrence compared with just 7% of patients in the treatment arm. And that'll do it for today. Thanks so much for watching OncLive News Network. I'm Laura Jones. We'll see you next time.